You're listening to Inside Content, the TV industry podcast. This show is brought to you by 3Vision, a global TV industry consultancy specialising in content acquisition, strategy, research and business development. Each episode, we give you VIP access to the views and experiences of senior TV executives and discuss the latest TV industry trends and insights.
On this episode of Inside Content, I'm joined by Sven Eckoldt, who leads partnerships at CARIAD, Volkswagen Group software unit. We take a fascinating look into the future of in-car entertainment and the unique role video is beginning to play within vehicles. Sven shares how CARIAD is bringing digital services, including video and gaming, into the car by leveraging both scale and software. Sven, welcome to Inside Content. It's great to have you join this spotlight episode on in-car entertainment. No better person to discuss all things automotive and video than with you, with years of experience across both sectors.
Thanks for having me.
Shall we begin with you introducing yourself and providing some insight into CARIAD, as perhaps this is a lesser known brand, but is of course part of the very well-known Volkswagen Group?
Yeah, absolutely. So CARIAD has been founded a few years ago, really with the idea in mind that software is becoming something super important in the automotive industry, and obviously also for the VW Group. And to kind of centralize and also keep a strong focus on the delivery of software across the different brands within the Volkswagen family, and then also to put in really the next level of expertise in that field, and that on a almost global scale. And me personally, I'm responsible for partnerships, dealing a lot with our Android ecosystem and App Store. And I'm sure that's something that we'll touch on later, that has become a really powerful tool to enable services in our cars.
Fantastic. And when did CARIAD launch, Sven? How long is the software unit for Volkswagen?
It was not always called CARIAD, so there was like a predecessor. It changed the name. So it's been around for a few years now. Started off as carsoftware.org, and now under the CARIAD label, which by the way stands for Car I Am Digital. Sometimes not so easy to know where that name is coming from. And have now successfully launched a few great products and pieces of software for the group. Yeah.
Great. Well, looking forward to digging into some of those products shortly. So we've been involved in this space for probably about 7 years now, and I guess it's fair to say that the adoption of video and the speed of development has been slower than other video initiatives we've seen in the residential space. But of course, automotive is very unique with its own kind of challenges and of course opportunities. How have you seen the in-car entertainment space evolve over the past few years, and what is now CARIAD's approach and product in this area?
I mean, first of all, it was pretty much unimaginable even a few years ago that anything beyond audio will play a role in car entertainment, and that has, if you compare it to the decades that were there before, and the development, at least in automotive terms, is quite rapid. So you see a ton of new things that are coming into automotive, and ways that you can spend your time and that you can interact in and around your vehicle. So I think video is an important one when you think about things like charging, and people are now sort of maybe have some time to spend in their vehicles while they're at rest. But also this goes into new driving use cases like passenger screens that we're, at least in our vehicles, putting in more and more, and that makes for a really, really exciting touch point when you're traveling, and something that can be used from the passenger side even when the vehicle is moving. So video, I think, is a great example of something that we're seeing now entering into that automotive space more, and will continue to do so, and leading up to anything that's going into an autonomous world. That's I think also going to be a very major use case. But this is not stopping there. I think entertainment is kind of like pushing the envelope now in all sorts of directions. Gaming is certainly something that we're already successfully implemented together with partners in our vehicles, and that is a development that's going to continue to grow and to see different variations of what gaming in the car actually means, and a ton of other things that are sort of mixing different types of content and making it more contextual in the vehicle. I think voice is also going to be a very interesting playground there. So long story short, I think video is definitely becoming almost like a set component in what people are expecting in vehicles these days, and a lot other educational, infotainment, entertainment, all sorts of like overlapping types of content are going to surface in the vehicle today and in the coming years as well.
And always interested to understand some of the use cases for video in car. And you talked about, when you're charging and the vehicle is stationary, an opportunity there, as obviously automotives come to fruition, and you get the opportunity to lean back and engage with some of those new exciting screens that are appearing in newer vehicles. Can you talk a bit more about some of the partnerships that you have in place? You mentioned some gaming brands. I've seen some interesting press releases around some of the big streaming services. Are you able to talk about some of those?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's super exciting to now have a variation of partners that are coming into the vehicles and that are recognizing that in-car sort of becoming part of their distribution strategy, and to a new approach of saying like, okay, where are additional eyeballs, or where's the continuation of people who love and cherish our service now even within the vehicle. I think we recently announced a great and exciting partnership, namely with DAZN, which is I think world leading sports streaming service, and now making it possible to watch like Champions League games live in your Audi vehicles. It's the first brand that has launched the service globally. And we're super happy about these types of partnerships, and there certainly will be more of that kind coming up. And I think that will start to really grow the experience and the different things that people can enjoy, especially in the video space in the vehicle from now on. Yeah.
Oh, that's really exciting, and I can see the brand appeal from both the Automotive and DAZN to working together there. That makes a lot of sense. Interesting that you said in-car is becoming part of a distribution strategy for a lot of video services. I guess if we'd had this conversation a few years ago, that potentially wasn't the case for a number of reasons. How are you overcoming some of those barriers that perhaps we saw previously when we're engaging with video services? What's changed now in this space then to make it more seamless to come on board? Excuse the pun, I always have to get one in there.
I think one element that is super crucial is scalability. And I think that's also something that CARIAD and ultimately the Volkswagen Group stands for as well. I mean, we have 9 car brands within the group, and that makes for quite a solid footprint on its own, on the software that we develop and the products that we release, but also I think that's a big plus for anyone that partners with us too. But it's not just restricted to us, like bringing basically our strength as a OEM or group of OEMs to the table, but it's also to do with lowering technical obstacles. Android certainly has a part in this that makes it easier for providers such as CSPs from the video space to say, like, okay, Android app development, that's something that I'm doing already anyway, and now I might have to optimize this for an in-car usage, but still I'm feeling rather comfortable with the technical delivery, and that makes it easier from a tech lift perspective. It increases or it shortens, time to market. That this is also becoming something where you can basically get your results quite quickly. And that also scales across the industry as more and more players are using that technology in one form or another. So I think, ultimately it's coming down to those things. And there's a few other elements that we're also getting better in, like testing, for example. It's not so easy to ship around Porsches around the world for partners to test on, although a lot of them ask us. So to kind of have like good ways of doing development work and also making it easier to kind of make sure, okay, this is looking good now and we can release this to customers. That's something that we're putting out different tools and methods to kind of assist people who work with us to make that even more manageable. So yeah, scale, low tech lift, time to market, and support in things like testing that have been difficult in the past. I think all these things are moving into the right direction and therefore making it a lot easier, but also more attractive for people to go into automotive.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Sven. I mean, as we know, kind of one of the challenges with video providers is resource, right? When there's so many opportunities for distribution across different devices, lowering that barrier by making that tech piece more seamless makes a lot of sense. And obviously with automotive, you're completely right. It's you can't take a car all the time to each of these services, as much as I'm sure they ask you to. Being able to do that virtual testing is really important. So that's really interesting that you've managed to kind of circumvent some of those challenges to make onboarding partners a more seamless experience. What would you say is the trajectory for video entertainment in cars? Where do you think we're going with this?
I think it's a mix of things that, first of all, back to the point of making this part of the distribution strategy, I think that is sort of where we are currently, that it used to be a pure novelty play, or more like, hey, this is something really innovative. Let's put in our service into the car. And I think we're now transitioning into almost like a more mass delivery kind of scenario now, that the volumes of cars out there that have the technology that is needed, and also the customer appetite of people who are now going, okay, I want more of this kind of stuff. Certainly China is leading the way, and to some extent where customers are already very prone to those types of features, but we're also strongly seeing that in the rest of the world. And I think that is also for anyone who's in the video distribution space or has services running, to kind of like now transition into that, okay, I'm actually reaching the solid sized audience here with bringing my service into the vehicle. So I think, scale is the important step now. And then I think going into certain levels where it's suited in personalization and adding additional features and making it into a even more automotive type of experience, I think that's also an interesting development that we're going to see. I mean, the car is, some people call it like a living room extension, but I think that's kind of falling short in terms of, we have a great speaker system in a lot of cases. You have a very unique environment. You in terms of like how you interact with the screen and also the settings, and that you might also be traveling from A to B. So there's a lot of potential there to kind of like bring in a service, e.g. in form of an app, but also to think about like what could be additional features and additional things that make this even more exciting to use in a vehicle.
Could you talk about any of those, Sven? How you're kind of potentially looking to capitalize on the uniqueness of the in-car environment, on the entertainment experience that you deliver to drivers and passengers?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that are being worked on or even have already surfaced across the industry. I think voice interaction, as said, is one of those elements. I think using different elements within the car that are responding to the content and might be interlinked to kind of like heighten that experience. Lights is I think one example there. That's certainly potential to drive engagement and also to make it into an even more unique space. And I think that is going to increase in the next years, that we're going to see more and more examples of this. We have to kind of find that sweet spot between not contradicting the scaling, so having a level of personalization that is that makes this even more fun, but also making sure that it still works across different car models and across different brands. And that's kind of like where we are trying to find the optimal combination.
So customer expectation is for, an innovative experience in car, then, Sven, going forward, and you're looking at things like personalization to deliver to that.
Yeah, I think it's it's a combination of what people are looking for. So we have very close to the vehicle type of services and use cases, which is a no-brainer that these need to be really excellent, like navigation, charging, parking, these types of things. And we're not just engaging in entertainment, but also covering these things very well alongside with partners. But it's also about now bringing in that additional layer of making digital services in the car easier to experience and to expand it into something automotive specific where it makes sense. And yeah, we're working on quite a few of these things underneath the hood. Sorry, now it's my time to do a car pun. And therefore we think that finding the right partners to do that, but also delivering that and to satisfy customer expectation, that will certainly shift into a car becoming more sophisticated digital space. That's certainly something that we're going to see that's going to increase even more in the future, and also will make users or drivers, however you want to call them, choose one vehicle potentially, because it's going to become part of that buying decision.
Yeah, interesting. That's significant, isn't it? If we're moving into a space where kind of infotainment and digital experience becomes a big decision for purchasing. We wouldn't have seen that, a few years ago.
Yeah, it's a transition, and I mean, if you call it by sort of what we deal with within the industry, it's certainly that software in the software-defined vehicle. That's what we're striving for, and that is reflected in how cars are developed now, but also in what the buyers out there are looking for, and what the definition of what's key and core to a vehicle's DNA is going to be. So super exciting place to be in right now, and a lot of things are moving, as said, very quickly, and those are both internally and externally coming from the outside demand, but also in how OEMs are, let's say, almost reinventing in the moment to basically have that software component in the forefront.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sven, on Inside Content and helping us understand more about what's going on in the in-car entertainment space. And hopefully we can pick this up again in 12 months' time and see what's new. But it's certainly an interesting and exciting space to watch.
Thank you, Hayley, for having me.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Inside Content, the TV industry podcast brought to you by 3Vision. With decades of TV industry experience and real-world success, we know the ins and outs of the market like nobody else. To learn more about our TV consultancy services, head to 3vision.tv.